The wind sweeps across an empty valley where a thriving town once stood. Over a century ago, thousands of people called this quiet and barren place their home. Yet today, there is no trace of human life. No foundations remain hidden in the dirt. In 1911, an entire railroad settlement vanished completely overnight without warning. This was not a slow decline caused by economic hardship. The thriving community was systematically erased from the map. Every single building was dismantled and hauled far away. Even the dead were not allowed to rest in peace. Workers exhumed the local cemetery under the cover of darkness. They loaded every grave onto midnight cargo trains. What could prompt such a massive and urgent operation? Historical records offer only scattered clues and contradictions. The truth has been buried by powerful corporate railroad interests forever. To understand this mystery, we must look back to the beginning. The town of Blackwood was founded in 1890. It grew rapidly alongside the expanding western tracks. Trains brought massive wealth and endless streams of ambitious workers. Blackwood boasted 3 hotels, a large bank, and dozens of prosperous local retail businesses on its main street. Photographs from the era show happy families and bustling markets. The railroad company heavily promoted the settlement as a permanent hub for future regional industrial commercial trade expansion. Life seemed perfect for the residents of this valley. They built sturdy brick homes and established deep roots. Nobody suspected that their entire world was temporary and doomed. The prosperity lasted for nearly 2 completely uninterrupted, peaceful decades. Blackwood became a shining jewel of the modern transportation age. Then the strange occurrences suddenly started happening everywhere. In late 1910, surveyors arrived unannounced in the valley. They carried unusual equipment and refused to speak with locals. They measured the land with intense, silent precision. Residents noticed these strangers taking soil samples near the river. Rumors spread about gold or oil deposits hidden underground. The company strongly denied all these growing wild speculations. Shortly after the surveyors left, train schedules became highly irregular. Passenger cars bypassed the station without stopping for waiting travelers. Freight deliveries slowed to an absolute frustrating halt. Town leaders sent telegrams demanding answers from regional corporate headquarters. Their urgent messages were completely ignored by the operators. A heavy atmosphere of paranoia settled over the community. People began to whisper about a secret boardroom decision. Some claimed the land was cursed or structurally unstable. Others believed a massive corporate conspiracy was quietly unfolding nearby. The breaking point arrived on a cold November evening. An unmarked black train rolled slowly into the central station. It carried hundreds of heavily armed private security guards. These men stepped onto the platform with grim expressions. They immediately secured the telegraph office and the bank. Communication with the outside world was instantly and completely severed. The town mayor demanded an explanation from the commander. He was handed a single piece of typed legal paper. It was an absolute eviction notice for every resident. The document cited an obscure clause in their property deeds. The railroad company retained the right to reclaim the land. The citizens had strictly 1 single day left. Panic erupted in the streets as families realized their fate. Decades of hard work were being stolen from them instantly. Armed guards forced everyone to pack bags quickly. Special passenger trains arrived to take the weeping residents away. People were only allowed to bring what they could carry. Everything else was left behind in their homes. By midnight, the evacuation was complete and the town emptied. A deafening silence replaced the lively sounds of community life. The true destruction of Blackwood was just beginning. Hundreds of construction workers poured out of the cargo cars. They brought heavy tools, strong ropes, and bright kerosene lanterns. Their orders were to erase the entire settlement. They started with the commercial buildings along the main road. Roofs were torn off, and brick walls were violently smashed. Valuable timber was loaded onto waiting flatbed rail cars. Houses were ripped from their foundations with brutal, ruthless efficiency. Glass shattered and wood splintered under the glowing moonlight shadows. The workers moved like a highly coordinated army. Anything that could not be salvaged was thrown into fires. Massive bonfires lit up the dark valley like terrible beacons. Ash rained down on the ruined, muddy streets. By early morning, the residential neighborhoods were completely wiped out. Where children had played yesterday, only scorched earth now remained. But the most chilling task was still ahead. A specialized crew marched toward the sacred local town cemetery. They carried shovels, wooden crates, and lists of buried names. The company wanted no trace of history left. Lanterns flickered among the tombstones as the morbid digging commenced. Dirt was tossed aside to reveal coffins of all sizes. Even the dead were evicted from this land. Workers hoisted the heavy wooden boxes from the cold ground. The coffins were loaded onto a separate dark train car. Headstones were shattered and tossed into deep trenches. This extreme measure guarantees nobody would ever return to visit. A town without a graveyard is a town without memory. The corporate erasure was absolutely and ruthlessly thorough. When the sun finally rose, the operation was entirely finished. The workers boarded their trains and steamed away in silence. They left behind a barren and empty wasteland. Blackwood had been a busy settlement just 20 hours prior. Now it looked as though nothing had ever existed there. The natural landscape quickly swallowed the remaining scars. Displaced citizens were scattered across various distant western pioneer cities. They tried to tell reporters about the theft of Blackwood. However, newspaper publishers refused to print their stories. The railroad company held immense power over the regional press. Editors were bribed or threatened to keep the story quiet. Official county maps were quickly and quietly redrawn. Archival records of the settlement began to mysteriously vanish everywhere. Birth certificates, property deeds, and tax documents went permanently missing. It was an orchestrated campaign of historical deletion. Decades passed, and the legend of Blackwood faded into myth. Only a few descendants remembered the stories of stolen homes. They passed down faded photographs of vanished streets. Modern historians eventually stumbled upon these rare surviving family pictures. They noticed buildings and landscapes that matched no known town. The hunt for the missing settlement finally began. Researchers scoured old railroad ledgers looking for missing track stops. They found a peculiar gap in the 1910 schedules. A station designation had been scribbled out completely. Ground-penetrating radar was brought to the suspected valley location. The scans revealed disturbed earth, where the cemetery once rested. They also detected compacted soil from former streets. But why did the powerful corporation destroy a profitable town? One theory suggests a deadly contagious outbreak occurred among residents. Erasing the settlement would prevent a wider panic. However, survivors never reported any illness during the forced evacuation. Another theory points to the discovery of rare precious minerals. Perhaps the town sat above immense mineral wealth. If true, the company would want exclusive access to mine. Removing the citizens ensured no disputes over lucrative land rights. Yet no mining operations ever appeared there afterward. The most sinister theory involves a dark and buried secret. Some suspect the town uncovered something ancient during rail expansion. The corporation needed to hide it away forever. Whatever the real reason, the execution was flawless and terrifying. A community of thousands was reduced to absolutely nothing overnight. It shows the terrifying power of unchecked monopolies. Imagine waking up and being told your reality is canceled. Your home, your business, and your ancestors are packed away. You are banished from your own personal history. The displaced people of Blackwood carried this trauma forever inward. They rebuilt their shattered lives in strange and foreign places. But they never forgot the valley they lost. Today nature has fully reclaimed the site of the tragedy. Tall, wild grass waves gently in the crisp autumn breeze. Birds sing where loud steam engines once roared. If you walk through the empty field, you feel it. A heavy and profound emptiness lingers in the quiet air. It is the ghost of an assassinated town. Occasionally heavy rains wash away the topsoil near the river. Rusting square nails or broken glass bottles sometimes surface briefly. They are tiny screams from a silenced past. These small artifacts are collected by dedicated amateur historical researchers. They piece together the mundane details of daily village life. A teacup, a button, a rusted pocket watch. Each item proves that this vibrant place truly existed once. The corporate giants failed to erase every single physical trace. The earth remembers what the ledgers tried hiding. The story of Blackwood serves as a dark historical warning. It reminds us how fragile our modern human settlements are. Powerful forces can alter reality to suit themselves. We trust that our homes and cities are solidly permanent. We believe our legacies will remain long after we pass. But history shows that permanence is merely illusion. A stroke of a pen in a distant boardroom suffices. That is all it takes to unmake a thriving society. Your sanctuary can become a blank space overnight. As we search the archives for more hidden vanished towns, mysteries multiply. How many other communities were similarly scrubbed from existence? We may never know the complete truth. The descendants continue to petition the government for formal recognition. They want a simple monument placed in the empty valley. They demand respect for their stolen ancestral heritage. So far, those requests have been met with bureaucratic silence. The modern railway conglomerates deny any knowledge of past wrongdoings. The cover-up spans across more than a century. Until the full files are declassified, the phantom town waits. It waits in the memories of a very dedicated few. The vanished souls of Blackwood demand eventual justice. The railroad tracks still run straight through that silent valley. Trains rush past the invisible ruins every single solitary day. But they never slow down and never stop.